The inspiration for Midlife Crazy came to me about 15 years ago. I was not retiring, but I definitely wanted to take a step back in terms of work. For 25 years, I've been getting on a plane every day, and I didn't want to keep doing that. I wanted there to be more to my life than just work. So I was really trying to figure out, what am I going to do when I grow up? What was retirement going to look like? I knew that I was not going to be happy playing golf every day, and I needed to figure out what my life was going to look like. So, eventually I came to the idea that, better to go a little midlife crazy than have a midlife crisis. At first my idea for Midlife Crazy was really to do as much adventure and physical challenges that I could. I started playing tennis regularly again, and I visited 25 or so national parks, and hiked and biked and rafted and climbed through those as much as I could.
The turning point from a perspective of mastery was the 2016 Ironman. I did that race and it went perfectly. And it was really the completion of something that I'd wanted to do for 20 years.
Daniel Keelan, Austin, Texas. You are an Ironman, Daniel.
And I went out to dinner afterwards, and I promptly announced to everyone that I was going to do another one every 5 years. But it wasn't too long after that I started to think, did I really want to do that? Would my body hold up? Was I going to get as much satisfaction from doing it the next time as I did then? More broadly, I was starting to wonder whether action and challenge was really going to be the thing for me, right? I loved all those activities, and I absolutely will continue to do them as long as my body holds up. But it wasn't a substitute for work. It didn't provide the structure, the daily activity. There's just something missing. All the, quote, experts say, pursue your passion. Well, I'd spent 25 years working. That had been my passion, so I didn't really know what else to do. December 31st of that same year, we were all hanging around, and my son said to me, "So, Dad, what's your New Year's resolution?" And without a whole lot of forethought, I said I was going to do something artistic. And everybody laughed. It's not that they didn't think I could do it, it's that it was so out of character. So now I really actually had to follow through. So eventually I decided I would take a pottery class. And what I really liked best about that class was that there was lots of open studio time. So I was going there and I could practice and experiment and do that. In fact, I was spending so much time there that my wife started to wonder what was going on. So unbeknownst to me, she came to one of my classes, and she ended up sitting like 10 feet in front of me, and I was trimming a pot, and I never looked up. In fact, I didn't know that she had been to the class until my phone started blowing up with all these texts from friends who had seen the pictures that she posted on Facebook. Those pictures really captured the essence of me, heads down, 100% focused on the pot, really in that state of flow that I love. So in quick succession, I ended up taking a bunch of other courses. I took woodworking, metalworking, a stone carving class, a metal casting class, blacksmithing, drawing. What I recognized eventually was that the commonality in all of those things was learning new things. It was the pursuit of mastery that really got me excited. How do I define mastery? Well, one is you can look up the definition of it in the dictionary, and it says something like great skill or capability in a specific area. But to me, Roger Federer epitomizes mastery. I'm a big tennis fan, and watching him play is really poetry. I mean, he's so graceful, he's so fluid, it's beautiful to watch, and he does it while he's playing some of the greatest tennis players in the world and putting them to shame. So by that definition, I am absolutely not a master at any of these things, and never will be. But mastery is also a process, and I think it's a process that they all epitomize of really focusing on learning all elements of that craft and trying to perfect it. What I can do is focus on mastery, and I actually get great joy in that process. So once I realized that mastery was really the thing that got me excited and passionate, I started to get more involved, to get deeper in, first was with woodworking. And so I arranged to some shop space, and that gives me all the tools and the space where I can do projects. I started taking classes at the local community college, and through that process I really learned to use all the tools of woodworking. So not long after I got into the woodworking stuff, I started taking classes at ACC in metalworking. I took a arts metals class, which was just kind of general stuff, and then a metal sculpture class, and then eventually a MIG welding class, really electronic welding. And they enabled me to do a number of different projects, both functional stuff like building tables and other things, and some different sculptures and more fun stuff. So most recently I've gotten into blacksmithing. And again, I took a class at ACC, Intro to Blacksmithing, and that was a really fun class. I find blacksmithing to be very challenging. Essentially each piece that you're making you do by hand, or really do by hand, but you got to do it with a hammer because it's a couple of thousand degrees. But really, if I was going to compare it to woodworking, it'd be like making furniture but having no power tools. And so it is really an artisanal thing, and so it's challenging and maddening, and kind of that's what keeps me coming back from. In fact, the Ironman, it was an interesting process of mastery. Clearly it is a huge physical challenge, but what made it interesting and fun when I did it right was focusing on mastery and learning. I had done a half Ironman about 5 years prior to. I trained for it. I ended up having a good swim, a good bike ride, and I was cruising along on my run until I got to 8 miles, and then I bombed, which is absolutely the worst thing that you could do in terms of having a good time. So when I decided to do the full Ironman, I joined a triathlon training group, and they were great. I actually trained less despite it being twice the distance. They changed my run cadence. They changed how I biked. We worked a lot on my swim stroke. So when I did the Ironman, it went exactly according to plan. So instead of just being drudgery and purely a function of how many hours that you can train, by focusing on the learning part of it and mastery, it made it more fun, and the outcome was much more what I wanted. I always thought that I had to find this one thing that I was going to do that would replace work for me. Something that I could do, something that would fill that space. But with mastery, what I found was a process. And by having a process, now I can apply that to any range of different things. So, I've done woodworking and metalworking and blacksmithing. I'm not sure what I will do next, but I think at least for now, that there's a multitude of different things that I can do that can give me satisfaction and give me joy.